Hello, welcome to Top Gear Motorsport and round 10 of the FIA World Rally Championship. Tommi Mäkinen set to go into the record books if he can take his fourth successive win on the Rally of Finland, but for once all eyes won't be on Mäkinen, Colin McRae and the rest. They share centre stage this weekend with the launch of this, Toyota's new Corolla World Rally car. After 2 years in the wilderness, it'll spearhead their bid for glory next year. We'll have a report on its development later in the programme. Finland might be in the very north of Europe, but the rally was run in glorious weather. After round 9 in New Zealand, Tommi Mäkinen headed the Drivers' Championship from Carlos Sainz, Colin McRae and Kenneth Eriksson, while 5 victories had given Subaru a commanding lead in the series for manufacturers. From one end of the world to the other, after the Rally New Zealand, the World Championship returned to Europe for one of the most famous events in the series. Formerly known as the Thousand Lakes Rally, the Rally of Finland might have had a new name, but the rest was very familiar. The lakes and forests, the huge crowds, and gravel roads on which experience was what mattered. The host city hadn't changed either, Jyväskylä in central Finland, where the first leg consisted of just 4 special stages to the west of the city. First over the start ramp in the centre of Jyväskylä was the local hero. Amazing consistency on the event in recent years meant that Tommi Mäkinen began as favourite. Certainly most of the support out on the stages was for the reigning world champion. Another win this year would give Mäkinen his 4th straight victory, equalling Shekometa's record of 4 successes on Kenya's Safari Rally. But setting records wasn't the most important thing on Tommy's mind.
Of course it's in my mind as well, but of course I have to think about the world champion situation, but because this is one of the easiest rally for me, get the maximum points. Of course I try to do it here.
Supporting Mäkinen in the Mitsubishi team was Uwe Littel. Returning to the championship after several months, Littel admitted he was mainly out to gain experience. Ford, on the other hand, had experience to spare. Carlos Sainz won the event in 1990, becoming the first non-Scandinavian to do so. Both Sainz and Juha Kankkunen had cars which featured a host of new developments. Team morale was at an all-time high. It was Sainz who took an early lead when he was 5 seconds quicker than Mäkinen through stage 1. Kankkunen's won the rally twice and was expected to provide the closest threat to Mäkinen. He'd allowed Sainz to finish ahead of him on both the last 2 rounds, but there would be no team orders in Finland.
150. Crest to easy right, 100.
After stage 2, Kankkunen was 3rd, so what's the secret?
You just have to use the throttle pedal more than brake pedal.
And what about taking off? Is the trick to stay on the ground as long as possible or to stay in the air as long as possible?
The best way is to stay on the road as long as possible, and that's normally the fastest way.
There's no way I'm going to win here unless there's a disaster with Tommy, Juha and everyone else. It is bad for the championship now because we start here 10 points behind Tommy, and as long as Tommy has no problems, he's probably going to win.
If McRae was downhearted, it didn't show in his driving.
And 6 left, and 6 right over jump, and 6 left opens, and here 5 left over jump, 30, 3 right plus, line.
Colin was quicker than Tommy on 3 of the first 4 stages and faster than Carlos on 2 of them. His teammate was Kenneth Eriksson, fresh from victory in New Zealand, but still looking for his first win in Finland.
But for once, the Subarus, Mitsubishis and Fords were upstaged as the factory Toyota team returned to the World Championship. Marcus Gronholm gave the team a terrific boost by sharing the fastest time on stage 3, while the second Corolla was driven by Didier Auriol, winner of the 1992 1000 Lakes.
Attention, gauche, très bon plus poteau. Très bon plus poteau. Sur 400 mètres derrière, 400 mètres.
Auriol's involvement with the car had started long before Finland. The Frenchman was responsible for much of the testing work. But why did the team choose the Corolla in the first place?
wherever we go in the world, the Corolla is sold, and this has been obviously a problem in the past. All the distributors have said, look, why don't you come with the Corolla, because this is the car we sell.
The rally version began life in 1996 on the computer screens of the Toyota Team Europe designers in Germany. It was then down to the engineers to begin turning the theoretical designs into a practical rally car.
What is probably different is the shifting. We have a sequential gearbox, but controlled hydraulically. And the rest, I think, is similar to what the others have.
Like a Grand Prix car's paddle gear changes, the Corolla's joystick sends electronic messages to the hydraulic shifters, so gear changes become just a gentle flick of the wrist. No matter how elaborate the workshop tests are, there's only one way to develop a new rally car, and the team took the prototype to the heat and dust of Greece as part of an intensive test programme that put Oriol in a confident mood.
I can say it's an easy car to drive, very easy, so now we must see if time it's okay.
We were 2 years out of business, and you can test a lot for yourself, but when the competition comes, you see where you are, and that's what we are here for.
Rallying is also an emotional sport. Perhaps not so much today as it used to be before, but I've been involved in the sport for 30 years or more, and I have a lot of emotions, I must say.
And Toyota weren't the only team to bring a new car to Finland. Opel revealed their new Astra GSI driven by Per Svan. Pavel Sibera gave the new Skoda Octavia its debut amidst rumours that it may well appear next year as a world rally car. And Mark Higgins drove a kit car version of Nissan's little Micra, but niggling problems, including engine management maladies, dropped him down the order.
The end of leg one saw the cars tackle a super special stage in Jyväskylä itself. Kenneth Eriksson ended the day in 7th place. Teammate Colin McRae was 6th.
Into open, hairpin right, gravel. 36 left open.
Mäkinen, suffering turbo and intercom problems, ended leg one in 5th place. There were 3 Ford Escort World Rally cars in the top 4. Juha Kankkunen was 4th. Jarmo Cutuleto split the works cars. He was 3rd in a privately entered Escort, while Carlos Sainz was 2nd.
Para derecha, derecha, buena metros de tierra. Para unos gordos pasar, izquierda buena de tierra. Chazar, para derecha buena corta ras.
But incredibly, the overnight leader was Marcus Gronholm. Toyota must have been overjoyed. This was, after all, just a test. Tactics, however, were to play a further part. 2nd place became 6th when Sainz decided to drop back down the leaderboard, deliberately booking into the day's last time control a minute late and incurring a 10-second penalty.
The last 2 stages we were backing a little bit because we didn't want to be first car on the road at all.
Why is that?
Because if it is dry like it seems like it is, it's not good at all tomorrow.
So the revised leaderboard looked like this. Gronholm would start day 2 with a lead of 4 seconds over Cutuleto, with Kankkunen, Mäkinen and McRae also gaining a place as a result of Sainz's gamble. No one, it seemed, was more surprised at events than the rally leader.
It's a little bit surprised, yes, but it's good for Toyota and also for me. It's very nice to lead a World Championship rally.
Day 2, the longest day, began at dawn. 10 stages well to the southwest of Jyväskylä would provide a stiff test. Would Sainz's decision to drop back pay off? One man who could answer that question was Gronholm, who was clearing a path through the loose gravel for the others. As Sainz himself had discovered in New Zealand 3 weeks earlier, running first on the road in conditions like these is almost guaranteed to cost time. If the first leg had delighted Toyota's management, the second day brought them back to reality. While Gronholm's car was acting like a road sweeper, Oriol's problems were all mechanical. Suspension and then transmission breakages cost nearly 3 minutes in just 5 stages. Second place, Jarmo Cutuleto, was also finding his high position a handicap on the fresh surface. Cutuletto has finished third on his home event for the past 2 years, but for the moment he was going backwards. Sainz's gamble was indeed paying off. He began well, setting the fastest time on 2 of the day's first 4 stages and had grabbed the lead after stage 8. Running third on the road, Kankinen had lost just 5 seconds to his Spanish teammate and now lay in second place, revelling in the superb handling of the Ford Escort and the adoration of his young fan club that assembled at almost every service halt. Kenneth Eriksson had set the fastest time on the day's second stage and looked to be a man on the move. He was running behind Sainz, getting the same benefit of a cleaner line through the gravel. In the other Impreza, McRae began the day just 9 seconds behind Gronholm. As he neared the end of the day's first stage, there was no hint of any problem. Yet immediately he passes the flying finish line, an all too familiar dull rattle is a sure sign that his Rally of Finland is over. Retirement number 5.
There's talk that it might be the cam belt again. That's something that happened in New Zealand and in Portugal. Do you think that's possible?
Well, I don't really know. I'm not an engineer. There's definitely an engine problem around that area, so you need to talk to David Lapworth or some of the engineers.
The cam drive's broken on the engine, so it's terminal, of course.
So that's similar to what happened in New Zealand and Portugal?
It's similar but not the same, that's all I can say to you. You know, we've been addressing the problem, we have a permanent fix for the problem coming, but in the meantime we've been doing various sort of interim measures, and I have to say that the team's totally taken aback by it. The engineers have been working flat out solving it. It's done an awful lot of work in testing on the dyno, never had the problem, only on the rally.
From a personal point of view, how do you feel?
Obviously pretty gutted. The championship's really out the window now, unless Tommy and Carlos had a disaster here. I don't think it's possible to catch them.
McRae's departure, together with Oriol's problems, meant that Uwe Nittel moved up into 10th position. Ahead of Nittel and behind the championship contenders, a quartet of Scandinavian drivers. Pasi Hagstrom was 9th after stage 10. 8th in an identical Toyota Celica was Thomas Jansson, with Eriksson one of 2 Swedish drivers in the top 10. 7th was Sebastian Lindholm, like Cutuletto driving a privately run Ford Escort World Rally car, and also like Cutuletto losing precious seconds. 6th was Jarmo himself in a car run by Malcolm Wilson's M Sport team. Finnish drivers were also making their presence felt in Formula 2, the World Cup for 2-litre cars. Tony Gardemeister in the Nissan Sunny was 3rd in the class, nearly a minute behind the Volkswagen Golf of Tapio Laukkanen, which was 2nd. It was, though, business as usual as far as the leading manufacturer was concerned. The flying Seat Ibiza of Harry Rovanperä led his home event by 22 seconds. Mark Higgins was making up for lost time. He gained 30 places during the day, but not without a few dramas.
We obviously had problems yesterday, and we just had a top mount break at the end of the stage previous to the one we've just done. So we had to go through the stage fairly carefully. But it's not so quite a lot from that. We've cured the electrical problem now, and hopefully Nick can now start attacking and getting back up the order a bit.
Are these typical teething problems of a new car?
Yeah, the problem is I don't think it's so much the car. There's some really big stones in the road which are coming through as all the other cars sort of rip up the ground, and you just can't see them, and you're in the ruts, so you've got nowhere else to go but actually hit the rock, and it's just punching the wheel straight up through, so it's pretty rough out there in places.
Nigel Heath was another British driver struggling in the ruts. This was his 2nd visit to Finland, but his Group N Escort Cosworth's 4th World Championship event this year.
With McRae gone, Subaru anxiously hoped that Eriksson wouldn't suffer the same fate, with Kenneth now up to 4th after stage 11. Gronholm had slipped to 5th, Sainz had been right. First on the road wasn't the place to be. By stage 11, Mäkinen had climbed to third, a new turbo giving him a fresh lease of life, and he was now just 15 seconds down on Sainz, the rally leader, while Känkinen was just 4 seconds behind his colleague. Co-drivers are often the forgotten half of the partnership, but in Finland their contribution is perhaps even more crucial than usual. Conditions here are physically more demanding than on any other rally in the championship.
I think it's the most demanding in every possible way you can think about it. The way of reading the notes, because it's very fast, and it's difficult because of the jumps and the speed you go and the compressions. So you have to take care of your neck.
I think it's hard to make him go faster. You know, you just keep to give a good rhythm and give the pace note at the right time. And if we have a problem, try to support him on a psychological point of view. But to make him go faster, it's quite hard. They are already quite fast.
For both of us, I think that little piece, if we can get anything better, is more concentration in what we are doing, and I think for the co-drivers anyway, that's the most important thing. So you ignore everything else, you just concentrate on what you are supposed to do anyway.
It's strange, you know, because you have really two kind of co-driver. You have the Indiana Jones type, very brave and things like that, and you have the I can say the secretary type, very calm, good organization and things like that. So I don't know.
Which are you?
I don't know, maybe a mix of these two.
The old story is that a co-driver can lose a rally for his driver, but he can't win it. Is that true?
No, I think it's a teamwork and we both can win it or lose it.
Is there one secret to being a good co-driver?
Well, if there is, I wouldn't tell you.
Grabbing more air than the rest, Gronholm was desperately trying to stay in touch with the leaders, but was still losing time to them on each stage. Ericsson's Subaru started stage 12 4 seconds ahead of the Toyota in 4th place. But any thoughts Kenneth and co-driver Staffan Parmander had of a good finish ended in exactly the same way as McRae's had. Parked up with a broken cam belt.
Det är bara stänga åt sidan.
Of course, very disappointed because this was my best Finnish rally ever. So I really felt I was on the target all the time. So of course, very sad for me, for Colin, and also for the team, of course. But still, I think we are leading the manufacturers. So we must be positive, looking forward to Indonesia.
So this was now a three-way fight. Over the day's three final stages, Känkinen slipped from second to third.
Two Finns surrounding a Spaniard. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Little bullfight for sure, but we will see then how it ends up.
Sainz had led for much of the second leg, but lost that lead on the very last of the day's 10 stages. So he would start the final day in second place.
For me, it's good if Tommy is in front of me. I can see the lines and I can see how much he's cutting sometimes and all that, which it's nearly impossible for me to know. So I think in a way it's good I'm not first car in the road.
Mäkinen had been fastest on 4 of those 10 stages, including all of the final 3. It seemed as though he'd been holding something back, waiting until the right moment to make his move. That moment had obviously arrived.
Now, yesterday every team was playing tactics of who would go first on the road, who'd be second, who'd be third, etc., etc. You're going to be first on the final leg. Does that matter?
No, it doesn't matter. My tactic is keep flat out and try to win this rally.
Tommy'd start the last leg in the perfect position to do just that. His lead was only 2 seconds, but it was enough. Kankkunen was another 2 seconds behind Sainz, with Gronholm and Cutelletto too far adrift to offer any real challenge. There was no mistaking who commanded the spectators' support. To the Finns, it was unthinkable that anyone else but one of their own should win.
Day 3's 8 final stages, covering around 85 miles to the southeast of Jyväskylä, would decide the rally. Mäkinen was first on the road, yet he was fastest on both the first 2 stages. Sainz was only a second slower on stage 15, the day's first, but mechanical problems weren't far away. Power steering and differential failure cost over a minute on the following 3 stages, and the challenge to Mäkinen looked to be over. As Carlos and co-driver Luis Moya arrive at the end of stage 18, their frustration and disappointment at losing the rally almost within sight of the finish is clear to see.
Carlos, the same problem?
Yes, no diffs.
What about the power steering?
Yeah, power steering now it's okay, but I don't think we can continue if I'm losing all the traction. I don't know if we can continue.
All eyes were now on Kankkunen. He and Juha Repo were quickest on the 3rd stage of the day, but the gap between their Ford and the leader's Mitsubishi was now 9 seconds. Marcus Gronholm still hadn't given up trying. The Toyota set the fastest time on the next pair of stages and, with Sainz dropping back, looked to be on course for a podium finish on its first ever appearance on a World Championship event. Jarmo Cutelletto was 5th, but took advantage of Sainz's problems to share 4th place with the Spaniard after stage 19. Gronholm, however, was still over a minute and 20 seconds ahead, so 4th seemed the best result the young Finn could hope for, with just 3 short stages remaining.
Group N, the class for production cars, has been dominated this year by Gustavo Treyes from Uruguay. His new Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 4 would finish 4th in the group, but the result was enough for him to retain his Group N World Championship. With 4 events remaining, the first world title had already been decided. In Formula 2, Harry Rovanperä held on to take the win for SEAT by just 14 seconds, finishing 10th overall. Despite his early problems, Mark Higgins looked to be on course for a win in the 1300cc class by a massive 20 minutes. It wasn't to be, however. On the very last stage of the event, suspension failure spelt retirement with barely 5 miles to go. Still, Mark's performance raised more than a few eyebrows. More fortunate was Nigel Heath, who brought his Group N Escort Cosworth home in 39th place, the highest British finisher. But what of Sainz? It was obvious as Carlos started stage 20 that the car was struggling for grip. He'd already picked up a 30-second penalty for leaving a service area late, and the team was powerless to do anything to rectify the situation. When the car finally stopped, Sainz and Moya resorted to pushing it, but to no avail. Their rally was over.
It's a little bit frustrating because we were pushing very hard. I think it is not easy at all to fight here with Tommy and Juha. We were really 100% pushing 100% during the whole rally. I think we could finish first both legs, and today after the first stage it was looking quite good.
Marcus Gronholm was the driver who gained the most from Sainz's retirement, but the celebrations were short-lived. The Corolla made it through stage 20, but stopped with a fuel starvation problem on the road section immediately afterwards. To retire with only 12 stage miles left was a bitter blow.
For the moment it's not so nice, but if we look for these three days, so it was very good rally for us. The car was so nice to drive and everything was going so well, but a little bit more.
But once this disappointment of not actually finishing has gone, do you think you'll be happy with the way the car performed here?
We're totally delighted. Obviously, we've got a bit more to come from this car. I think the other teams have got a bit to do to look to us. Obviously, a lot to do. We have to look very carefully at what's happened here. And these small problems can be something quite big, so no stone left unturned. And we'll just work away at honing the team into the correct shape.
There was, though, one piece of good news for the team. After his problems on the second day, Oriol eventually finished 8th. The final pair of stages involved a water crossing for the spectators, but nothing would stop them from witnessing the thrilling climax to the rally.
We are not in a hurry. It's just a question of everything works all right, and I don't make any mistakes.
Of course I try till the end, but quite impossible, I think.
Behind the leading pair, Thomas Janssen brought his Toyota home in 5th place. Sebastian Lindholm was 4th in his Ford Escort. While Jarmo Cutuletto made it a hat-trick of finishing 3rd. The last 2 stages saw the leaders set the fastest time on 1 stage each, and Kankkunen once again had to settle for 2nd place. In an exact repeat of last year's result, Mäkinen was able to keep Kankkunen at bay. His 4th successive win on the same rally puts Mäkinen into the record books, only the 2nd time in the history of the World Championship that a driver has achieved that feat. No wonder there were some delighted faces in the Mitsubishi team. And this was Tommy's 4th victory of the year.
I think it was one of the tightest rally this year. From the start, flat out 2.5 days, just a couple of stages, last couple of stages we could slow down a little bit. It was very, very tight.
Seppo Haryana was also setting records. This was his 20th win on a World Championship rally. He's now the most successful co-driver in the championship's history. The top 3 places were identical to last year: Mäkinen, Kankkunen and Cutuletto, with Lindholm and Janssen making the top 5, an all-Scandinavian affair. With Sainz, McRae and Ericsson all failing to finish, Mäkinen couldn't have had a better result. The maximum 10 points give him a lead of 18 in the Drivers' Championship with only 4 rounds remaining. In the series for manufacturers, no points for Subaru, but they still lead. Mitsubishi have now closed the gap to just 8 points and Ford are only 5 behind them.
As predicted then, a jubilant Tommi Mäkinen took his 4th win on the Rally of Finland, a victory which may well have secured the World Drivers' Championship for the 2nd successive year. Next, the championship makes its only visit of the year to Asia for the Rally Indonesia. Last year's event ended in retirement for both the Subarus, and the team will be desperate that they don't repeat that performance this year. Cam belt problems, though, have plagued the cars since Portugal. Will the team be able to find and cure the problem in time?
In reality, we don't have to get the engines ready till the day before the event. We'll air freight the parts out, and I think you'll find the resource and sort of engineering expertise that's going to be thrown at that in the next 10 days is going to be pretty immense.
Immense is also an excellent word to describe Mäkinen's performance. 4 wins from 10 rallies so far this year, and on that kind of form, who'd bet against him retaining his title? In Top Gear Motorsport next week at the earlier time of 7 o'clock, Eurocar racing at Mallory Park. Dougie Lampkin goes in search of another World Trials Championship to add to his indoor title. And Tiff turns his hand to Formula V racing to celebrate the Marque's 30th anniversary in Britain.